This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Okay, so I want to do this exercise not because I'm anticipating anything, but because I want to know what the reality is no matter where the wind blows with Deshaun Watson. There is a possibility that the wind blows in the right direction, the shoulder gets healed, he plays well down the stretch, this Browns team takes a deep run into the playoffs, if not all the way, and we are looking at how we were thinking about this situation in October as a complete joke. There's also a chance that this could really be the alarm bell that tells us that we need to move on from this experiment, similar to Baker Mayfield's injury in 2021. It can go either way. I don't know which way it's going to go, but I do know for either scenario, you need to be prepared. And the Browns are prepared for the scenario that if this goes right with Deshaun Watson, they will be able to maintain it. The question is, are the Browns prepared for the scenario if this goes wrong? So what if the Browns have to move on from Deshaun Watson? Is that going to destroy the franchise? Is that going to tear everything apart? Are they going to have to sell the team to get the money? Like, I've heard all kinds of crazy things about how much this contract has doomed the Browns and this trade has doomed the Browns and all of that. But let's actually talk about it, and let's make the assumption on this video, not saying that's going to be the case. Again, trying to be very clear on this, but let's make the assumption that it just doesn't work out with Deshaun Watson for whatever reason. Let's say he doesn't get healthy. Let's say something goes wrong in the rehab line. Let's say he requires surgery, whatever flavor that you want to throw in there for why it doesn't work out. It does not work out with Deshaun Watson. What do the Browns do? What position are they in? And are they screwed? And how screwed are they if they are screwed? So first things first, let's look at the draft compensation that they gave up for Deshaun Watson. I believe they gave up 3 first-round picks and a mid-round pick for Deshaun Watson. They got a mid-round pick back in Deshaun Watson. Let's look at those 3 first-round picks. Because if we go back to the first draft where this will matter, the 2022 draft, you lost your first round pick in that year. Let's see who would have went or been available in the spot that the Browns were selecting in 2022. Let me pull that up for you. So right here, we're going to look at it via Wikipedia. The Browns naturally had the 13th pick in the draft. That went to Jordan Davis, right? They got Jordan Davis. Now, the Browns' first pick in this draft was Martin Emerson. Now, outside of Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley and everybody else who went in this draft, top 5, I would make the argument that you could say that Martin Emerson has been the 3rd best corner, if not the 2nd best corner in this draft class, which is to say that if you took Martin Emerson 13th overall, you would actually be pretty happy with that pick. You might end up being happier with that pick than you ended up being if you just would have took Jordan Davis here, but you're in a fine enough situation. Let's go to 2023. The Browns originally had the 12th pick in this draft. The Detroit Lions ended up with this pick somehow and took Jamar Gibbs. The Browns got, obviously, their most impactful rookie right now is DeJuan Jones, who is playing at a Pro Bowl level. And you can make the argument he's probably the best drafted tackle in this draft class right now. It's not even an exaggeration. So why bring up those 2 players? Well, the big reason trading first round picks is something that matters, and people say it will hurt your team is because you lose the ability to have those quality first round level players. That is the big thing, right? If you trade your first round picks, it's not about how many picks you have in that draft. Is do you hit on somebody who ends up being first round quality? In the first two drafts of this Deshaun Watson trade, you can say with a reasonable amount of confidence that the Browns have hit on the first round quality player in Martin Emerson, and they hit on a first round quality player in DeJuan Jones. Who knows what the rest of those drafts come up to? You might get more really good players in these draft classes. You might not. But right now, you got two first round quality players out of those drafts. So the impact of trading those 3 first round picks has been minimal. You really haven't lost anything because you've been able to reload at an acceptable level. You got DeJuan Jones in there. You got Martin Emerson. You're happy with those if they were first round picks. So that's the first thing. We don't know what's going to happen next year, but Andrew Berry has done a pretty good job drafting. I would expect that to be pretty similar, and I would expect that the hit that you take from not having first round picks will be minimal, if not anything. So the compensation element of it, that's not that big of a deal. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is Deshaun Watson's contract, which is fully guaranteed. So I enlisted some help. I DM'd my friend Jack Duffin, who does great cap stuff because he understands this much better than I do. And he pointed me to a couple of articles that he wrote for the Orange and Brown Report on 247sports.com. So make sure you check it out. Appreciate Jack Duffin for pointing me in the right direction. Now, this article was updated as early as today about the salary cap numbers on a potential Deshaun Watson trade. If you wanted to trade him, can you trade him, basically, is the thing. Now, he has right here, the best way to view the Watson deal is based on cash. Let me get that right here. So the best way to view Watson's deal is based on cash. This is what a player's agent and team are focused on. The salary cap numbers are on the account purposes and manipulation of the cash has been paid, thus of secondary importance to a negotiation. So the numbers that matter for the next 5 years are 45 for 2022, 46 for 2023. Going forward, you have 46, 46, 46. That's the number. You'll hear all these other cap numbers. Jack is right on this. That's the cap number. All right. A team's commitment, a new deal. So let's say the Browns have to rework Watson's deal to give him an additional $69 million of cash this season to reduce each of his cash payments over the next 3 years down to $23 million a year. The reason is because Watson wouldn't be smart to take a pay cut to do a trade. So why should he? So they're saying like, hey, if you want to restructure this to get him to have a pay cut, you could eat this number and these would be the numbers that you eat. So let's go down to dead cap, because that's another thing that people kind of make a big deal out of. With the trade, any signing bonus for future years will automatically be added to next year's cap, meaning that the numbers would be 575, an additional salary cap created. But this is likely or adding an additional player to a 53-man roster. 2024, that number is far too high to be realistic to manage in 24. Considering the salary cap will likely be close to 256 per over the cap's projection. So what is the conclusion that Jack has here? He says, if we're going to be honest, no trade is likely possible unless Watson takes a massive pay cut, which he shouldn't, or a team is willing to take on his deal without the Browns eating any part of his additional deal in the future. If the Browns were to trade him with his current deal unchanged, new team acquires 3 years of $46 million, and the Browns have a 24 cap of $62 million, which is certainly manageable. The most I could realistically see them eat on a contract would be $6 million a year for the next 3 seasons, which would allow them to swallow million basically of 2024 dead cap. Any trade at this stage with the team taking on a guaranteed money will look similar to Brock Osweiler deal. And with Sam Watson, a higher pick and less assets because clearing cap is more important than trade compensation. So basically what Jack is saying there is if you wanted to trade Watson, it would be a Brock Osweiler deal. It would be we're trading him plus a second round pick, which would mean that you would kind of add on to the L of the trade going bad. So I'm not in favor of that if that's what it takes. Not only do you have to eat the money, you have to eat an asset. So if that's not possible, if you can't trade him and get rid of him that way, how do you work this out? Okay, well, there's another way that the way that this is likely going to work out is the Browns will just play the waiting game. So with Watson's contract, you have to think about this kind of like how the Eagles did with Carson Wentz. One day, Carson Wentz was the franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. He just got a new contract, but they draft Jalen Hurts, and the next thing you know, Jalen Hurts is the franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? That is the situation that the Browns have to kind of hope they hit on. So what does this mean for the future if they move on from Deshaun Watson or they decide they want to move on? It's going to be awkward. There is no doubt about that. It's going to be just as awkward, if not as awkward as it was in Houston when it was time when he wanted to leave Houston. What would probably be required would be Watson's on the team from 2024 and 2025, either as a backup or as an inactive player. And they just quietly move on in the background. Now, are the Browns screwed if that's the case? I don't think so. The reason I don't think so is because if the Browns had to move on from Deshaun Watson anyways, or if the Browns didn't have Deshaun Watson, their approach would be the same, which is looking for a quarterback in the draft in 2025. So you would be waiting, 2024, 2025, and then when can you cut him? You can probably cut him after 2025. So 2025, you get your first round picks back. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I do this approach. If you really decide you're just completely done with Watson after this season for whatever reason, you play out the 2023 season, you see what happens here. 2024 comes around and you make the decision you want to move on. Now, this would be extremely early, but let's say you find out this summer you don't want to be on this ride no more for whatever reason. Okay. Now, it depends on why you get on this ride, because you do have the out that if he gets suspended again for anything new, that the guarantees go away and that you can pretty much cut him without penalty. And you will be able to wipe your hands clean of that situation. Barring that, and I find that unlikely to happen, barring that from happening, you would be like, hey, Deshaun, we're going to have you be the backup. We're going to go with DTR in 2024. Deshaun's going to probably not love that. And he's going to request a trade. Spoiler warning. If the rest of the season goes like this, then and the Browns are like obviously ready to move on, then nobody's going to want to trade for him. So he's going to request a trade. He's not going to get the trade. Nobody's going to trade for him. It's not going to happen. And he will basically end up chilling on the team for 2 years, whether he wants to be the backup or not, whether he is the backup or not, he'll be chilling on the team for a couple of years while everybody kind of waits for this whole thing to settle itself out. And DTR will be the quarterback for 2024. 2025 will roll around. You'll get a rookie quarterback. You'll play out that rookie quarterback's rookie year. And that is like, if DTR is not good, let's just assume DTR comes in and he's all right. You have DTR in there. And then you decide you want to upgrade a quarterback. So you draft the quarterback. And then you draft that quarterback plays the rookie year, and then you have the rest of the rookie deal, and you can get rid of Deshaun Watson in 2025. So I really don't think they're screwed. It's not great, but nobody wants to, admit that their franchise quarterback is not good. So it's never a great situation to be in, but it's normal. It's a normal, not great situation to be in. If this thing doesn't work out with Watson, it's going to be a little awkward. You're going to have to sit there and be like, hey, I'm paying for a guy. Or maybe you just plan for a replacement of Watson throughout the rest of his tenure in Cleveland. So maybe you don't want to go DTR as a starter in 2024, and you just kind of let Watson play out 24 and 25 while you draft a quarterback on the first round in 25 to eventually take over and not renew his deal after that. That's also an option. But the Browns are in a pretty good position. I think the most important thing that could have hurt them in this position to go if we have to live in a post-Watson world, which again, hopefully he comes back, plays well, we could be fine. But I'm also got to cover all sides here. But the best thing to happen for the Browns in a post-Watson world is their good drafting these 2 years, their ability to add young talent on the rookie deals the last few years. That has been massive for this team. Will you lose a couple of good players along the way? Yes, you will. But you will retain your core players in Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, the offensive line, whoever you want to keep. You have DeJuan Jones. Like, you'll retain enough of this core so by the time you get to the next guy that you want to give a chance at quarterback, you'll be fine there. Also, what I think that this approach does take off the table, which I'm honestly thankful it does, because I think this stops the Browns from making a bad decision, is doing what the Broncos did. The Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, and Russell didn't play well. They blamed it on the coach, and they traded a first-round pick and gave a bunch of money to a coach that they thought would be the solution, so they doubled down on Russ, and it's working out even worse than before. What you don't want to do is double down on a bad decision. Sometimes in the NFL, you just got to take your L. You took your chance at a quarterback. You took a big swing. Take the L. Don't let an L become an even bigger L by refusing to take it. Just take the L. Eat it. You got to eat the L. And if this Deshaun Watson thing does not work out, the most important thing for the Browns to do is just take the L. No, you will not be able to trade for another starting quarterback right now. No, you're not going to bring in Kirk Cousins. That wouldn't work out. No, you're not going to try to bring in Ryan Tannehill. You're going to be living in young quarterback world for a couple of years. You're going to reset at the quarterback position, but you feel confident about the rest of the team that you can survive that. And then you will hopefully, through good evaluation, through good luck, get a good quarterback in 2025 in the first round, if that situation poses itself, or maybe DTR is a good quarterback and you can roll with him until a better option presents itself. But what you don't want to do is, oh man, we panicking at quarterback. Let's go in. Let's go give Tyler Huntley a bunch of money, or let's go give some random backup who played a couple of good games a bunch of money, or let's go and trade for Kirk Cousins and give him a bunch of money and take that money on and make this cap bill even bigger. What you don't want to do is double down on a bad decision. If we're in this situation where they want to move on from Watson, it's a L. You just got to eat it. It's going to be awkward for a couple of years, but you just got to eat it. Whether you just have him be a sitting duck for a couple of years while you actively try to move on from him or not, you just got to eat the L. That's important. But what also is important is that we're talking about maybe a year or two of awkwardness, like maybe just 1 year, to be honest, right? If DTR steps up and plays well next year in this scenario, not saying this is going to happen in this scenario, then you're fine, right? They have a number of ways of getting out of this fine. It's really fortunate that they drafted as well as they did in 22 and 23. And if they draft well in 24, it will be even more fortunate for them. And they have a second round pick in 24. So it's not out the realm of possibility that they do draft well in 24. So the Browns, against all odds, in my opinion, are in a good position, or as good as a position as you can be in with this contract, if it comes to that point. And that's an important if it comes to that point. But I did want to explore the possibility of it, because it's at the point to where you want to at least check and see if there's an option there. And the good news is that this team's not going to burn down and be awful. Like, they will probably be a 9 to 10 win team for the next 2 years, because this team is good enough around on all three phases. But they might have a little bit of a ceiling. But they're going to have a plan going forward on what they can and cannot do. And I think that as good as you can be in this situation, they are set up as good as you can be. And that's a credit to everybody in that staff. But that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day.